Coffee-crusted brisket, so tender it cuts with a fork. Hellfire T-bone steaks, guaranteed to make you sit up and take notice. And smoke-roasted free-range chicken, health food hot off the grill. We're grilling beef and game on the range. I'm Stephen Raichlen, and from the beautiful Esplendor Resort in southern Arizona, it's time to grill. Grilling brings out the cowboy in all of us. After all, smoked brisket originated in Texas cattle country, and barbecue was brought to Missouri along the Chisholm Trail. Today's show is designed to make you at home on the range, or at least at home with the smoked and grilled foods of the range. Hellfire T-bone, coffee-crusted brisket, and a free-range chicken grilled with herb butter under the skin. On the range evokes the great sense of openness and expanse of the American West. This is where cattle were raised and herded. This is where Texas barbecue was born, such iconic dishes as Texas brisket. To me, it sort of evokes the grand spirit of American barbecue. If I had $1 for everyone who wrote in with a brisket problem, I could, well, if not retire, certainly buy myself a big new smoker. Brisket is the Mount Everest of barbecue. Smoke it low and slow for the right amount of time, and you feel like you're on top of the world. Rush the process or overcook the brisket, and you wind up with a mouthful of shoe leather. Today, I'm going to show you how to nail the perfect brisket for your family or for a crowd. Brisket is a fibrous flat muscle from the chest of the steer. This is a whole brisket, sometimes it's called a packer brisket, and it consists of 3 parts. The deckle, this fatty but very tasty portion on top, a flat, which is located underneath this cap of fat, and finally the point, which is located at the end. This is a trimmed brisket flat. It's what you're likely to find in the supermarket. There are 2 schools of thought about trimming brisket. I adhere to the less is more school. That is, I trim off very little fat, leave most of it on the brisket. The idea is, as the brisket cooks, the melting fat will baste the meat and keep it moist. Now the rub. In keeping with our home on the range theme, the rub starts with coffee. Then we'll add an unexpected ingredient, cocoa powder, salt, pepper, paprika, brown sugar, ground coriander, ground cumin, onion powder, and garlic powder. And I like to mix the ingredients for the rub with my fingers. That way you can break up any lumps that may be in the brown sugar. What's the deal with the coffee and cocoa? Well, they have a pleasantly earthy, bitter flavor that goes really nicely with the meat. Now, apply the rub. What you do is you just sprinkle it on top of the brisket. Do the same thing for your brisket flat, and that is apply the rub and rub it into the meat. When you smoke a lean brisket flat, I like to place it in a foil pan. That protects the bottom of the meat from the direct heat. And another way you can keep it from drying out is to drape the top with strips of bacon. Of course, this adds an extra layer of flavor. You can cook the brisket right away. If you cure it overnight with the seasonings, the flavor will be all that much richer. Let me show you the smoker. This is called a horizontal barrel smoker. It originated in Texas and Oklahoma. It's the home-size version of the big rigs the pros use on the professional barbecue circuit. Consists of 2 parts. This is the cooking chamber. And back here, this is the firebox. This is where the heat is actually generated. What you do is light a couple of chimneys of charcoal. And what you want to do is this fat head part goes closest to the flame. The smoker's a little hotter on this end than this end. And I'll put on the smaller brisket as well. So this one will be ready in about 5 hours. We'll have it for lunch. This one, about 12 hours, we'll have it for dinner. Close the smoke chamber. And the last step is to add the wood chunks. They've been soaked in water for about an hour so that they smolder rather than burn. What you want to do is add about 2 or 3 wood chunks every hour. Place them on the coals. Now let me show you the mop sauce. A mop sauce is a bit different than a barbecue sauce. First of all, it's thin. Second of all, it contains little or no sugar. Starts with dry red wine, then orange juice, balsamic vinegar, coffee to reinforce the coffee that was in our brisket rub, Worcestershire sauce, salt, freshly ground black pepper, and your favorite hot sauce. Whisk the ingredients together until the salt crystals dissolve. And check it out. This is our brisket after about 2 hours. So the way you use a mop sauce is you simply apply it with this tool. This is called a barbecue mop. You want to mop the meat once an hour until it's cooked. We'll continue cooking the briskets. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what a Texas brisket should look like. Looks done. You can see it's reduced in weight almost by about 40%. But the way you check for sure is use an instant read meat thermometer. Insert it into the thickest part of the brisket. You want to be at 195 degrees. Bingo, we're right on the money. Lift this bad boy to the cutting board. You never want to cut into brisket or any large roast right away. You want to let it rest for about 10 or 15 minutes. The meat will relax. It will taste much juicier. So just tent the brisket with aluminum foil to keep it warm. And here's the smaller brisket flat. I cooked it for 5 hours, took it off the smoker, and then put it back just to warm it. And here too, you want to tent it just maybe for 5 minutes, just to let the meat rest. And to serve with the brisket, this is some jalapeno cheese cornbread that we direct grilled to toast it. And this is a red eye barbecue sauce. Both recipes are on our website. So let's see how we did on the brisket. Once the brisket has rested, all you need to do is carve it. Remember, the grain runs this way on the brisket, so you want to carve it across the grain. I like to put the sauce on the side of the meat so you can appreciate the spice and smoke flavors first before you taste the sauce. Let's see how we did. That brisket melts in your mouth. And the funny thing about the coffee, you don't really taste it as coffee, but there's a layer of flavor that's different than a standard salt and pepper brisket. So now you know the secret of nailing the perfect brisket. I created these very quick T-bones, seasoned with hot sauce and mustard, but they can be made from start to finish, literally a couple of minutes. If you like hot and spicy food, these are a killer. There are 3 things every aspiring grill master should know how to do: smoke a brisket, roast a chicken, and grill a steak. The latter isn't complicated, but you do need to know a little about anatomy and physics. Here's a steak that's guaranteed to make you sit up and take notice. I call it a Hellfire T-bone. The first step is to pick an intrinsically tender steak, like a New York strip or a filet mignon. There happens to be a cut that includes both, the mighty T-bone. Now, this is your New York strip. This is your filet mignon, connected by a T-shaped bone. Steaks are graded into prime and choice, and the grading refers to the amount of marbling. These are prime steaks. If you take a look here, you can see these wonderful thick veins of fat. Remember, folks, in the world of grilling, fat equals flavor. First step is to season the steaks with coarse salt and pepper. Now comes the Hellfire part. Brush the tops of the steaks with your favorite hot sauce. Then sprinkle each steak with mustard powder. Finally, you can pat the ingredients into the meat with a fork. That helps the spices penetrate the meat more easily. Now let me show you the compound butter. It starts with chopped chipotle chilies. Chipotles are smoked jalapenos. Finely chopped fresh cilantro and salt and pepper. Cream these ingredients together with a wooden spoon until blended. Then what you want to do is transfer the butter onto parchment paper. Roll it up into sort of what resembles a Tootsie Roll. Just like that. Roll it into a cylinder, and then you twist the ends. What you're going to do is freeze this compound butter and then cut off slices, put them on top of the steaks. That's another secret to making a great steak, to anoint it with some sort of fat, butter or olive oil. With our Hellfire T-bones, how about a vegetable? Jalapeno poppers. So what you do to make a jalapeno popper is you cut the top off the jalapeno, and then using a paring knife, you take out the pith and seeds. The seeds are the hottest part of the jalapeno. That's not why I'm discarding them. I'm discarding them to make room for the filling. You start with a sliver of pepper jack cheese, a sliver of smoked ham, and finally a piece of cream cheese. Then stand the popper in a popper rack. There are many different varieties, and you can find them in grill shops and cookware stores. Okay, let me show you the grill. I have preheated the grill to slamming hot, and as always, we have our little grill master's mantra: keep it hot, keep it clean, a few strokes of a wire grill brush, and keep it lubricated, oiled with either a folded paper towel or an oiling cloth, dipped in vegetable oil, and rubbed across the bars of the grate. The grill is set up for direct grilling. I have 4 burners set on screaming hot. That's where I'll cook the steaks. 5th and 6th burner are actually on low. That's where I'll grill the poppers. You want to arrange the steaks on the hot oiled grill grate. Grilling time, it's about 4 to 6 minutes per side for medium rare for each steak. After 2 minutes, give each steak a quarter turn. How do you know when it's time to turn the steaks? Well, the blood will actually purl up on the top of the steak. Once you see it, turn each steak over. And look at those killer grill marks. All right, and let's see where we are here. You can see gently yielding, so we are done. And to finish each T-bone, remember our compound butter. It's been frozen, so all you do is unroll it and cut off a disc of that chipotle butter. This is one of the constants on the world's barbecue trail and one of the secrets to a great steak. Anoint it with some sort of fat. For example, in Italy, they drizzle a bistecca alla Fiorentina with extra virgin olive oil. Peter Luger's in New York adds a spoonful of melted beef fat. So let's see how we did. I'll cut off the filet mignon portion here. And you can see it's an absolutely perfect medium rare. Now a popper. I call this paradise on a plate. The mustard, hot sauce, and chipotles give this guy a triple blast of heat. And the jalapenos, that cheese and ham really does a nice smoke thing. So there you have it, Hellfire T-bone with jalapeno poppers, because some people like it hot. Free-range chickens are chickens that are not cooped up in a tiny cage in a factory. They're allowed to walk around, peck in the grass, and they're just healthier, meatier, more flavorful chickens. You know, I'm always amazed how much tastier chickens are when they're raised on the farm, not in a factory. Here's a free-range chicken with a stuffing that might surprise you. What makes this chicken so supernaturally succulent is that it's stuffed with garlic herb butter under the skin. The first step is to tunnel your finger under the skin and loosen it from the breast. Start with one finger, then work in 2 fingers, and eventually your whole hand. The idea is you want to loosen the skin from the meat without tearing it. Now, once you've loosened the skin from the breast, slide your finger under and loosen the skin from the thigh. Breathe a sigh of relief, the hard part is over. Now the garlic herb butter. You want your butter at room temperature, but not soft or melting. To it, add finely chopped tarragon, chives, and other fresh herbs, Parmesan cheese, roasted garlic, salt, and pepper. Cream these ingredients together with a wooden spoon. Once your butter is ready, take a spoonful and stuff it under the chicken skin. Massage the butter down over the breast, down over the drumsticks and thighs. One last step, take a couple of whole tarragon sprigs and insert one on the right side breast and one on the left side breast. And you'll see the sprigs once the butter melts into the skin. And here's a cool technique for trussing the chicken with a bamboo skewer. I learned this from my son Jake, who's a chef in New York. Insert the skewer through the drumstick under the bone, and then bring the skewer around to the other side and insert it through the drumstick this way. Now cross the legs over, one over the other, and push the skewer through the bottom of the chicken. Break off the top. Here's your chicken ready for roasting. I'll just keep it on ice while I show you the wood and how to set up the grill. Okay, I've set up the grill for classic indirect grilling. Coals raked into mounds or placed in the side baskets on the side, drip pan in the center. Now, one cool thing to do is you can pour some red wine in the drip pan, and as this steams, it will flavor the chicken. Then simply replace the grate. place the chicken on the grate directly over the drip pan between the mounds of coals. Now here's an interesting wood for smoking. These are wine barrels that have been cut into chunks. I've soaked them in a little water and red wine. So what you want to do is simply take a tong full of chunks and place some chunks on one mound of coals, and then we'll place some chunks on the other mound of coals. So you'll get a smoke that has both oak flavor and wine flavor. Finally, place the grill lid over the grill. Situate the vent so it's between the mounds of coals. That will enable the smoke to be drawn evenly over the chicken. Close the vent holes, brings the temperature down to obtain a temperature of about 350 degrees. Cooking time, 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so the chicken should be done. And check it out. It looks beautiful. Looks done to me. 3 tests. Number 1, you can wiggle the drumstick easily. Number 2, you could prick the thigh and the juices will run clear. But the safest, most predictable way is to use your instant read meat thermometer. Insert it into the deepest part of the thigh but not touching the bone. You're looking for 165 degrees. Right on the money. Transfer the chicken to a platter, and I've lined this platter with tarragon leaves, which will reinforce the flavor. And then what you want to do is remember to pull out the trussing skewer, and you never serve a chicken or a roast hot off the grill. You always want to tent it with aluminum foil for a few minutes to let the meat rest. That way it will be juicier. That looks really nice. You know, when you put the butter, the garlic, the herbs under the skin, they really penetrate the meat. So there you have it. Coffee-crusted brisket, Hellfire T-bones with jalapeno poppers, free-range chicken with garlic and herbs under the skin. So now I hope you're at home on the range and on the grill. See you next time. Barbecue was brought to Missouri along the Chisholm Trail. Sorry. You know, I've always been amazed how much tastier our chickens... Sorry. There are 3 things every self-aspiring... The latter isn't complicated, but you do need to know a little about anatomy and physics. So there you have it. Coffee... Sorry. I took too big a bite. Are you in?